Okay, Joe. First of all, your artist statement, absolutely wonderful. I think that oftentimes we become too descriptive of our images in our artist statement, and that leads to I don't want to say boring, but artist statements that don't make us think or engage on a deeper level with the work. On the other hand, your artist statement, I love the little metaphor that you set up at the beginning of it, and I love how you specifically relate it to your project, and in many ways almost continue on with that metaphor throughout all of these images. So your opening image, I think, is fantastic. The juxtaposition between sort of all of the monochromatic background contrasted against this big five that is big, bright, and red. And it says a lot about not only what's expected of the people that come to this place, but also it is like a metaphor, like how to stand out in this world. And you do it in a very visual, photographic way. So absolutely love it. Very simple image, but completely effective. The one thing I do want to point out, and this isn't really a criticism here, but it does look like you were lightening up some different parts in the images, especially some of the computer screens, which I'm super happy that you did it, but I can kind of see a little bit of haloing on the side here. I know it's probably a really really minor thing in the grand scheme of things, but as you're making these adjustments, these local adjustments in these areas, kind of zoom in and make sure you don't get that sort of halo that's going on them. But again, super super minor thing. Your second image, love how you're using depth of field here. And I always get worried when people are doing research type of projects, or projects that involve a lot of books or reading or computer stuff, because it's tough to really convey that stuff in a very visually interesting way. And here, of course, you did, with not only really nice use of depth of field to sort of draw our eye right to the pronoun lesson here, but also the lighting that's in here sort of is just sort of dappling on in this place here. So really love that a lot. Your third image here, love what you're doing. I mean, it was probably a pretty boring photograph without the little extra Photoshop help in here, but with the Photoshop help, it kind of draws our eye to those computer screens. And in some ways, the halos around them are like, these saints that are ultimately going to be the things that help the students advance in their lives. So like it a lot. I mean, this is super neat photo and super creative. I mean, honestly, at this level, at the introductory level, I don't see a ton of really super creative shots. I think this is super creative. So I love what you did here. I love some of the risk taking that you're taking, and all's good. And then, maybe what I'd say is probably more traditional type of shots that I would expect in this scenario, and certainly having the teacher and the student together. I think you did a portrait of her in the next frame. The one thing I just would recommend here is when you have two shots together like this, I think that you want to make sure that the color balance is exactly the same here. Notice how this shot, she kind of has a little bit of a yellow cast to her, and in this shot, she is pretty neutral. So just be aware of that when you're going from these two images, and certainly in your camera raw settings, you should be able to get those white balances pretty similar. And then another shot, sort of using the depth of field to your advantage. Again, I like what you're doing. I think it works a lot there. And if I had maybe one criticism of it, it just you have some images now that are starting to repeat themselves. So having one student teacher shot, I think, works pretty good. or tutor, whatever these people are. But as you start to repeat it, it kind of starts to lose interest. I do love the fact that they're both wearing the blue tops, and sort of the mirroring of that is one very compelling element of that I think works good. And last but not least, again, sort of an interesting shot. I love the fact how we've sort of got, the very structured paper that, computer generated charts and graphs and stuff like that, and it's kind of juxtaposed against the more free-form handwritten thing where this person is kind of like, not following the lines perfectly, and it's not perfectly structured. And I think that reinforces a little bit of the personality that you show here, where she's sort of wearing the thumb ring, and there's a little bit of creativity in her jewelry or her fashioning. So like that a lot. Overall, really strong project, Joe. I think you have 3 or 4 photographs in here that I just really love, that are super creative and show a very high level of advanced thinking in photography. So with that being said, keep up the good work as we get into the final project, and look forward to seeing what you have to deliver for that project. Take care.